When you were a kid, did you ever get that Christmas catalog and just start marking everything on your wish list? That is exactly what we're doing today, but it's going to be SQ car audio. It's going to be a fun one, so buckle up.
Yeah, I just want to be the greatest.
When you're trying to put together a budget SQ system for under $1,500, you're going to have to think about every single purchase. That's why you need to start with the beating heart of the system. This is going to need to do a lot of processing, provide power to your front stage, which is probably the most important part when it comes to SQ. In my opinion, this amp is like the budget SQ king at the moment, and it is my favorite 4-channel amp of all time. This amp is going to do factory integration. This amp is going to do your DSP. This amp is going to power your front stage. In most applications, you should be able to use this just fine in factory integration. So let's talk about the amp itself. The amp is 50 watts by 4. It is a spectacular value at $279.99, so $280. So that is $280 off the $1,500 total, and in my opinion, this is the best budget pick out of anything we're picking here. Most items on this list you can replace with your preference because there's many options at this price point, but this amp, in my opinion, is not replaceable for this amount of money. You're going to have to spend maybe double to get something that will do what this amp does. So when you're doing your $1,500 budget SQ system, to me, this one on my list is irreplaceable. You might have a better idea of what you would use in this price range, or maybe you'd skimp somewhere else and get a more flexible amp. But the auto EQ is going to get you about 90% of the way, and you can make fine adjustments on your radio to get it just the way you like. So very happy with this pick. This is the beating heart of the system, and it is going to set us up well for our budget $1,500 SQ system. All right, we have our processing, we have our amplification, we have our integration. That is the most important part taken care of. We're on to, which in my opinion will be the second most important pick that you do, and that is your speakers. There are plenty of speakers in a $300 price point, so this is where you can get variation. If you like the sound of Focal tweeters, you can go Focal. If you like the sound of Audison, there are many options in the $300 range. The one I happen to pick, the Morel Maximo Ultra 602s. I've had this very set. I think they sound really good for $300. And it's going to get you in that range where you're getting a lot of value for a relatively small amount of money. It's $289, so just under $300. In my opinion, these two picks together are already the makings of a really nice sound quality system. And like I said, you can substitute this for many other brands. Just this one's a preference thing. You can actually even get something cheaper. For my pick, it's the Morel Maximo Ultra 602. Now we're on to what some of you may consider the most important part of the system. It's the subwoofer. What are we going to do for a subwoofer, for an amp, for an enclosure, all that stuff. And I'm going to make it simple for you, dead simple. You can replace this, remix it. You can kind of tweak this to your liking, but I'm going to recommend the Rockford Fosgate P512. The powered Rockford Fosgate enclosures are amazing. Dean talks about them all the time. I've heard several of them, and you get a lot of performance for the money. But everyone below this price level is a sealed enclosure with around 300 watts. This one, you're bumping it up. You have a ported enclosure and you have a 500 watt amplifier. So it's all in one package, really nice factory enclosure. It's gonna look good, it's gonna be easy to install, and you're not gonna have a lot of work to do. It includes the bass knob. It's just gonna be a quick, kind of plug and play situation for you, and it's gonna provide you a lot of bass, even though this is taking up a big portion of our budget at $489. We'll see what we have left after that, but it's well worth it in my opinion, because sometimes you just want to put the gravy on it and you want to turn the bass knob up a little bit and just get a little extra sauce when you're playing your music, and this one's going to allow you to do that. Now you could go down to the P312, which is going to give you 300 watts in a sealed enclosure if you want a little bit more mellow bass, or you could even do a separate amp and a separate enclosure and subwoofer, but I wanted it all in one package. That way when you're doing this yourself DIY, It's all simple, easy, and you're going to be impressed. When you put this in there, you're going to be impressed. For $489, I think this one is tough to beat. And now you might at this point be thinking to yourself, hey, we still got quite a bit of money left in the budget. That total is here, but where is that money going to go? Well, I'm going to tell you, because a lot of people, when they're building these systems, forget to include the most important things. And one thing that is not cheap is wiring. So I'm going to recommend you this Kicker dual 4-gauge wiring kit. With this setup, you have a 500 watt sub amp and you have a 200 watt front stage. So you're going to be at 700 watts full tilt, and it is a 10 OFC, very high quality kit. And with this kit, you'll have everything you need, including the distribution blocks, the fuse blocks, and all that to get everything hooked up properly. Now you're probably thinking to yourself like, hey, we have $300 left. What else do we need for this system? Well, the most overlooked thing in car audio, in my opinion, is sound dampening. And we're going to use the rest of our budget on sound dampening. And we have enough money to get some quality product here. The one I'm going to recommend you is SoundSkins. We're going to start with the SS Pro kit. That's 22 square foot. And the unique thing about this particular one, it has not only the CLD layer, it has another layer of closed cell foam. So this is going to be great for going in between your door panels, especially on those $300 Morel speakers. We're going to want them to sound the best we can. It's going to help with vibrations, rattles, stuff like that. And you have plenty to not only do both doors, but you should have some left over to put in the trunk area to help with rattles with that 500 watt Rockford Fosgate subwoofer that you're putting in, because there are going to be rattles, believe me. That being said, I also opted for the $60 roll of SoundSkins Slim, which does not have the closed cell foam. It's just the CLD. You can use whatever's left of the Pro kit that you didn't use on your doors in the trunk along with this, and get as much coverage of your trunk as you can. Obviously, depending on if you have SUV, you're going to want to put it in that hatch door. There are a lot of good videos out there about how to sound deaden, how to get the most bang for your buck when you're doing that. I will link a few of them below in the description so you can get an idea of how you should be doing your sound dampening. We have a little bit of budget left. We're going to end with the SoundSkins foam rings. So much like fast rings, this is just a SoundSkins version. It's going to give you a spot to go around the speaker, so you got a little bit of coupling in between your panel. Then it also includes the tile that goes directly behind the speaker, and that'll help with some of the back weight. So all in, everything included, we're just a little under $1,500 now. This is assuming you're installing it yourself. If you're going to have somebody install a system like this, expect to pay, you know, pretty close to what this system costs. So that's going to cost you another $1,500 to get all this installed, possibly more depending on the current rates. But if you're doing it yourself, $1,500, and you'll have a pretty sweet system, in my opinion. You'll be very happy with it. You will have to do minimal work. You're not going to have to build an enclosure. You're not going to have to install subwoofer in an enclosure. You're not going to have to carpet an enclosure. You're not going to have to find a spot to mount two separate amps, just one amp. Going to be an easy, simple install for you. And I think most people who are enthusiasts in the car audio community can tackle this project with relative ease in a weekend and make it look pretty tidy. So with that being said, what picks would you change in my group? Would you go with different speakers? I'm assuming you guys do have a preference and you might change the speakers. The one thing I think that's irreplaceable for me is the kicker key. So what would you want to use instead of the kicker key? You know, there's the JBL, which I'm currently using now. I just think that it doesn't have enough power to kind of do what I want it to do. And because all the channels aren't bridgeable, but that's neither here nor there. So let me know what your picks would be, what you would change out for an SQ system. Keep in mind an SQ system. If you're doing an SPL focus system or a ground pounder street banging system, this is going to be a different setup, and maybe I will do a $1,500 future system like that. But I want to know what your picks are for this $1,500 SQ system. Do you think I did good? Would you pick the same? And what would you change? With that being said, I do appreciate each and every one of you that takes the time to watch this video. If you're not subscribed, please consider hitting that subscribe button, clicking the little bell. It means a lot to me, and you know how it goes. I hope to catch every single one of you on the next video.
A big shout out to all my supporters, but a special shout out goes to the 6-star or more members: El Fuego Audio, Baba, Cornut, Scott McCord, David Kozlek, Scott Dielbeck, Dennis Cromwell Jr., Boxboy Audio Sound Solutions, Travis McLennan, William Berg, 2001 Monolithic, Joaquin Juarez, Old School Stereo, Living Loud with Andy, Thomas Marshall, Kevin Lautner, D. Stewart, and Jesus Tires. You can join the team for as little as $2 a month and get exclusive Patreon-only content, behind-the-scenes content, and access to the Patreon-only monthly live stream. So if any of this interests you, check me out at patreon.com/hi-fi-vega.
I know you told your friend you're not okay, and tell me what's wrong and why you never said you felt that way. And guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile.